to our town council meeting for April 7th, 2014. Start off with the mayor's statement, followed by a moment of silence and flag salute. Notice this meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the agenda on the bulletin board at the municipal complex, filing a copy of the agenda in the office of the township clerk at the municipal complex, forwarding a copy of the agenda to the Barnett County Times and Carrier Post, forwarding written notice to each person who has requested copies of the regular meeting schedule. All of the above posting, filing, and mailings have taken place on the 4th day of April 2014. Please stand for a moment of silence, followed by flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as is customary, we will start off tonight's meeting with our informal discussion, which is also known as the workshop. And Scott, why don't you take it from there?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last meeting, we discussed the budget and some minor changes to what had been proposed before. Tom did provide council with the update on what the changes are. So we are going to be looking for some direction from council and any discussion, any question that council has. And we also discussed the capital budget at the last meeting. And as we discussed, approving the capital budget in the context of the 2014 budget cycle right now is about raising enough money in the budget to do a down payment. The individual projects will be determined as council decides to bond them. There are a number of projects that would require professional services. So if council is going to approve any of those projects, essentially the sooner the better, so we can get professionals. There's a number of projects that require some planning and engineering. Road repair, some drainage work for public works, recreation. We have a number of projects that we're looking at. Refurbishment and repairs to the Western Bishop North and Jeff Young hockey rinks, potential lacrosse and softball field, which we're talking to those organizations about paying for those, and just some additional minor repairs to the rec center. But all of these things would require some engineering, so like I said, the sooner we have a direction the better, so we can either move forward or put them on the shelf for a year. So, Tom, if you want to just go over briefly, real quick, the changes in terms of what you sent council over the weekend.
Everybody in council received that? Normally, from the time that we start the workshop meetings till now, there's a lot of changes that things that occur. Revenues. We're going to decrease the amount of surplus anticipated by $15,000, so it goes down to $2,115,000. They're going to increase the construction fees that were anticipated by $10,000, and then the next major items were just grants. It's common that we don't know what some of the grants were. We did know what two of these grants were, but normally I have two options. I could have brought them in to the Capitol. Done an ordinance to amend it and change the project, but instead I decided just to bring it through the budget since we're doing the budget process. So that's an increase on both sides of the budget, the revenue side and the appropriation side. So that was the $100,060 for the enhanced stormwater management grant that we received. We actually got notice last year, but this goes towards the town hall project, and it's for some sustainable things over there. I don't get it. Like for like the cistern and plantings and the detention basin, things like that. is the Burlington County, 2013 Burlington County Parks Grant that we received. We had done the ordinance previously for the park before we received this award. So this award, depending on when we actually go out to bid, will do one of two things. They could either reduce the expense that was appropriated, or if the bids come in higher, it could be used to supplement and do additional work, whatever is necessary. And then we received the Sustainable Jersey Group received the Sustainable Jersey Capacity Building Grant of $750. And then there was a police training award of $1,500. And then we adjusted the amount to be raised by $842, and a total increase to $221,468. These obviously offset the appropriation side. On the appropriation side, there was a decrease in the salary and wages by $1,522. There was an increase in the assessor OE for some tax map updates that need to be done. There was an increase in the Economic Development Committee budget, which that was discussed. That's $1,500 that Deputy Mayor, correct. Then $750 increase for court OE, some of the equipment they use to transport the stuff back and forth is worn out, and they want to purchase new equipment for that. $6,000 increase for the road repair and maintenance budget for the Christmas decorations. Council discussed that last time. Put that in there.
How much was that?
$6,000. There was a decrease of $42,949 in the public employee retirement system appropriation, and a decrease of $54,804 for the police and fire retirement system. So the state's assessment was decreased from the original number by a good amount there.
Did that cost overall go up or down
Which cost?
for the pension, the pension contributions?
The overall, for the PERS, it went up slightly, $6,285. The assessment actually went down slightly, but there were some other assessments for retro pay stuff like that that we got hit. One was for like $4,000, the other was for $9,000. There were different bills that were in this year's number, and the police and fire actually went down by about $39,000.
What was that number, Tom?
$39,000 last year. On the number 8, 9, 10, and 11 all have to do with the grants, the offsetting side, the appropriation side, and then we talked about them on the revenue side, the same grants. The $100,060 to $125,000 grant, the $750 grant, the $1,500 grant. Then also at the previous budget meeting where they discussed the capital projects, there's $65,000 increase in the capital improvement fund as the down payment money, additional down payment money required for the projects. And then there was an adjustment to the reserve for uncollected taxes. The original number we had used was based upon 2% of the school budget. Obviously, we know that the school is going to be going above that, so I had to account for that. So that had an increase of $17,183 to our budget. So again, that's $221,468 for the appropriation side. So the tax rate still stays unchanged. The average assessed home of 443 really was 445. We'll pay $1,800, same they paid last year. The tax rate stays the same. That's it. Any questions?
And health benefits, health group insurance was down almost 1%. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Tom, a couple of questions. The communication technology infrastructure of the town, we've talked about a couple of different times. Is there any way we could use, or you see we could use, you've investigated, that we can use the surplus to return with that value to the town? Also, are there any projects that are out there that we may want to address that maybe are second tier, or maybe this is a question for Scott too, that we might want to go look at? I was right visiting Yancey Adams Park, and I I don't know if that's been thought of, but that's just an example of what might be a possibility. I don't know if there's a second tier of projects. First, I mean, we're only having a surplus once, and we want to look at these kinds of things maybe a second time. Also, I don't know if the council is in fact interested in this, but we're going to actually take a tour on Friday, thanks to Scott setting it up, of all of the town sites and buildings. And we may actually come back with some recommendations for the budget. Is it going to be a problem if we put up a concern or a value of the budget going forward as far as a decision for a month's sake? Is that a problem sometimes?
Well, if anything pops up on Friday that's operational, that's a quicker process in terms of making that change. If we were talking about any type of capital improvement, typically with the larger capital projects, we have professionals help the directors and Tom and myself put together the estimated cost. You're probably talking about several months if you wanted to do an additional capital project.
Several months if you know.
But yeah, I think we could just leave it open-ended and see if there's anything that you guys really, because it's going to be you and Victoria, if you guys come up with anything during that trip. Getting back to the other question though, about the surplus, it's certainly an interesting idea of using the surplus in that way. Typically, what towns do use the surplus for, and there's varying degrees on how they do this, is to offset the property tax burden. Some towns use it too much, and then they run out, and then they have big tax increases. And Tom and I think, are of the same mind, where we prefer to use it in a moderate, responsible way so it lasts a while. I mean, we've discussed before, a lot of what's in our surplus now is not a sustainable revenue source. So once it's gone, it's gone. And it's, with the way the budget cap works now, Tom, you could speak up if you disagree on this. I think it's smarter financially, if there are any projects, to capitalize them and to pay as debt then rather than use the surplus for it, and then the surplus is gone.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't see, first, with your question about the technology, with the new building, the town hall, we have really improved the township's overall technology infrastructure. Most of the computers, I think I said this last time, are out of warranty. In 2007 and 8 is when the servers and computers were purchased. They're end of life now. As part of the project, and they are capitalized, because you can capitalize that part of the project as a technology refresh and part of the building. A lot of the stuff is being already addressed. And Scott's right, as far as if any of these other items come up, we can view each one. For instance, if it's a park, you can still capitalize it, but maybe that's something that was addressed by the open space tax. If it's something like the park. So we can view the project itself and the timeline. Again, we do a 6-year capital project, so maybe it's something for a future project. If we, like Scott said, we would have to put an engineer or architect on it to do the work, come up with the cost estimates, and then by the time you go out to bid. The other option is, once you identify that stuff, there are times that say, we have money, for instance, appropriated for drainage. Well, if no drainage issues occur during the year, and there's an item out there that we know of that needs to be addressed, maybe at the end of this budget, we can sit there and say, take that money that we know we're not going to use now for drainage, and in November, December, we can make transfers. We'll, buy additional Christmas decorations, whatever it is, something like that for November. Just saying, it can be addressed.
You have to pick on them, didn't you?
No, just bring as an example. So I would not hold up the budget process for what you may or may not identify during the project. But
specifically, actually, I'm glad you mentioned specifics. I've got an article here that we all got, in a sense, an email as council people, and it talks about a town, not in this state, I have to admit, town that went to basically propane for all of their vehicles, and they're saving an enormous amount of money. It's cost effective, and it could be set up. Additionally, as we've talked about sometimes before, setting up our own gas station, if you will, or tank underground with gas pumps at Public Works would alleviate the fact that people are going over to Mount Laurel and coming back, and when they go to Mount Laurel and come back, they're just going to get gas and coming back. It just save time and cost.
And that would be a very long study, I would think, because there's also environmental issues when you have the road.
Right.
As opposed to driving it.
So the money for that study is also something that I think would be sustainable, is what I'm pointing out. And actually, there's a third thing that went out of my head. But, Public Works folks, other folks in the town, our facility folks, they could have a handheld which would describe what work they've done, when they've done it, and it would feed back into a computer system, a CMS derivative like I've been talking about, those kind of things. But you're saying, well, they're all capable in this budget, if I'm hearing, to go forward, at least to study.
Depending on the cost, I mean, there's certain things that if, the town manager listens to council and gets an idea that he feels is something worth looking into, we can prioritize and say, you know what, you were going to, yes, you did have approval to do this during the budget, but you know what, we feel that this is more important, hold off on that other matter. Or like I said, if something that we budgeted for, because again, we always have to budget for a certain amount of exposure areas, and there's instances where the exposure is greater, and we end up eating into something else, and then we have to cut back on it. There's other times when that exposure isn't met at all, we have that excess money. So we balance that out. We can do that internally, but it's up to council to come up with their list as a consensus of council that they want us to try to address, and then we as a staff will say, we can try to get it done this year, or we'll definitely put it in next year's budget. Everything comes down to money, as you know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Craig, I like the idea about, if we could save money on fuel for vehicles, it's certainly something worth looking into, but like Tom said, I think that's a long, hard look that probably would be minimal impact to this year's budget, because it would just be a look at this point. And we do have a couple members of Sustainable Morristown here, and it'd be something we could talk to them about at a later time in terms of just beginning the very beginning process of looking into that, and it would be something that we probably would be able to look at next year as a phase 2 to really get more involved. Just getting back to the idea, and I forget which park that you mentioned.
Yes, the Adams Park, right, which is on Church Street, and it joins the Maple Blossom Park.
Yeah, we've done a lot of park improvements the last couple of years, and what it's come down to is essentially there's been two types, I guess you could say, of park improvement ideas that have come forward. One has been, we've had ideas from specific organizations that use specific facilities, and they have chipped in financially, in some cases paid for all of the improvement, in other cases some of the improvement. And then the Rec Advisory Committee obviously does more general usage type issues, and that's how the track project came to fruition last year, and this year we have the Jeff Young hockey rink in the Capitol. Same thing, the RAC reviewed it and made the recommendation to Teresa. Teresa makes the recommendation to me. I'm going to make the recommendation to council. So I would want to give RAC the opportunity and Teresa the opportunity to look at that, and fit that into what their overall plan is.
Yeah, and I would like to know exactly what we're talking about, expenditure, work, and all that, before, we just give it the green light. I'm happy that the Jeff Young hockey rink is in there. That rink is near and dear to me since I've been playing hockey there since 1982. And I've been brought up several times in the last year that it's, that it's in disrepair. I think it's unsafe. I've seen kids crawling through the jagged wood. And it's been worrisome, so I'm glad that, I think we should fast track that, have that assessed, to find out what we can do, whether it can be repaired, replaced, what has to be done.
Yeah, Scott Taylor, our park and landscape professional, has reviewed that with Teresa Miller. They have an idea of what needs to be done, and it is in the capital proposal.
And I think there's some volunteers who are also going to be putting money towards it and time and effort into it too. I don't know that it's going to become a rink like we have over at West of Bishop,
Right.
because that's where Misha has their things, and I don't think Misha is in a position to have that rink on Jeff Young as part of their
Right.
their organization. But they would like to see it developed too, but they'd like to see the money, more of the money go towards the West of Bishop rinks, because those are the
Sure.
ones that are used constantly. So
Right.
I have been talking to a couple people, and there actually might be some volunteer work,
Right.
volunteers who can put some things together. So I think it's gonna be a nice addition.
Yeah, and I like that it's just a rink that kids can just go play at, pick up hockey, and that's not necessarily part of the, you know, have to.
Or adult mayors.
Oh, yeah, I've done that actually.
Don't play bowling for us?
What's that?
Don't play bowling for us?
And I guess speaking of the budget, and I guess I was looking for a place to bring this up, but as Greg mentioned, we received a number of emails being on council, and it was very interesting when we received about Atlanta. And they're, using old landfills for solar fields as a way of reducing their carbon blueprint and carbon emissions, and to generate revenue and to cut costs. And I know we've bannered that about, and I told the council about it, but I want to fast track that. We're already into May, or in April, we're going to be in May soon. And as we know, if we want to make any type of impact, a positive impact on the 2015 budget, we're going to need to start doing things now. I think that might be an opportunity to revisit. I'd like to discuss with council and Scott, having somebody come, wherever that may be, to the May meeting to discuss the revenue generating opportunities and whether we can cut costs. So council, Stacy?
Yeah, well, I fully support that.
Right?
I've been talking about solar to this town and to these councils for 6 years.
Okay.
I'd be really happy to see that happen. And in fact, we've met with Scott and one of the members of Sustainable Morristown. I don't know if May is a reasonable time to get enough of the information together for that.
So who would we have?
If I could finish.
Oh, I'm sorry, with that,
I don't know if Brett May would be a reasonable amount of time to get enough of the information for that. And I think it's very important that we have all of the problems sorted out before we come to council that may occur, or the thoughts or the issues. So if we want to take enough time to get to that point, but we're closer, a lot closer than we
I
were.
appreciate
And
it.
that's thanks to this council, who was the first one who said, let's go ahead with solar.
And you and I have talked about it, but I appreciate that we fast track it in the May. So Scott, who would we have?
I was just going to point out that this has been discussed before, and actually probably about $60,000 to $80,000 was spent on a study, and it just never went anywhere.
Where's the
Solar.
study?
No, I'm sorry.
But how was it they changed the,
Well, correct, well, yes, correct, actually.
Well, if I could speak to that as well, that was before, as the mayor has said, that was before solar became a very positive thing within the state, where they allow what's called a rain garden, which is where when you put solar in one place, it can go through the power lines and be credited to you throughout the town.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, Gloucester Township now does this, or is going through a process of doing this for their school system and their municipality, saving a great deal of money.
same with Millville. Millville just went online with a solar field. Phil, what are your thoughts?
I think we should just roll with it. I think, as Greg said, it's been one of these things that have been batted around for years. Let's do it.
Deputy Mayor Giordano?
I think it's a great idea. Craig, I'd like to see just maybe like an informational, not coming to us and saying this is the project we want to do in May, because I don't think that's
No.
feasible.
I'll
I just think
hear
the
the pros and
information,
cons.
I do have concerns about some of the things that happen, and one of them being the Dietz and Watson plant over in Delran, or Delenka, that, burned down, and from what I understand from some firefighters, it was because of the solar panels up on the roof, because they were so charged. So I just want to know if there's different things, that there might be different
Well, this is-
technologies and things like that. So I would like to hear the information
Sure.
and kind of give us the options of all the different things we can do, and then the council can kind of give a direction on which way we should go.
Absolutely.
With respect, Mrs. Deputy Mayor, I would like to say that's exactly the experience when solar was installed, when it was very young, and there were not as many controls as there were, what types of solar as there are now. So we would want to have a preparation that is valuable for the council and clean it up. And that may, but I think the best thing to do would be to go back with Scott and see if we are ready by May, or we can do maybe, as you say, a limited informational and then get back.
Yeah, just a preliminary information.
Yeah, sure.
So who would you recommend come to a meeting in maybe May, but whatever, to tell us the pros and cons about it, just in an informal setting, we're not gonna be signing on the dotted line,
Right.
but just as.
No, we're very far away
Right.
from signing on the dotted line, and everything I've heard the last couple minutes is going in the right direction. The problem with solar, and you know, Greg knows this, he's been involved. There's a lot of people, a lot of townships, a lot of organizations, a lot of business people who've taken bath on solar over the last decade, 15 years, because the technology is changing rapidly. Legislation has been changing rather as fast as legislation will change in terms of tax benefits and things of that nature, in terms of making it an economic benefit. And we do have some people on Sustainable Moorestown. There's one person I know for sure who knows pretty much all facets of solar, both the technological side and the economic side.
Okay.
You know, we could invite a planner to participate in that discussion. I know Rick's got some experience with solar. You know, I've worked with Mark.
Jack of all trades, all right.
Yes.
Class dismissed.
I have also worked with Mark Remsen from the county on solar stuff. But yeah, I would say, yeah, and then you might talk to our engineering firms. We have several of them, and gauge their level of expertise from their staff to see if there's anybody I would want to invite from one of the engineering firms that we have.
When Chris and I were on the planning board, we received a seminar actually on solar regulations from Lago, I can't remember her first name, but a person who was on the staff of ERI. So that might be a person too.
That's true too, yeah.
Yeah, I just talked to Chris Knoll actually last week about a number of things, and solar did come up. And yes, in my last town, I did work with ERI on solar, so
And there's actually an enormous person right in this, a person with enormous knowledge of solar right in this room who's now a professional contractor for the town. His name is Rick Reagan.
Oh.
I'm not a contractor for.
Professional.
Well, I guess we just have to put pencil to paper and start
Sure.
outlining
Yeah.
who we can get to come.
Direction on the budget.
Yeah, direction on the budget. Well, I guess barring Greg and Victoria's tour, and Scott, I know the last budget workshop, we asked you to go back and look at the appropriation side to see if you saw any places and maybe you could report what you found.
well, Tom went over the changes that we're suggesting, so yeah, nothing too large here or there. The one thing that wasn't mentioned yet that also was added was money for engineering for the Peter Pan parking lot.
Yes.
And I did, what I did was I did reduce some of the numbers of other projects. So the overall number of $3,233,000 stays the same.
Okay. Then when can we tee up the introduction then? Would that be April 28th?
I believe sometime you see a problem with the introduction.
Again?
20 sounds good to me.
I'm good with that. I'm happy with where it's come. I like, the projects and things we're gonna do,
Okay.
especially since the tax rate is gonna be unchanged. You're paying the same, so I think that's a big plus.
Yeah, 0% tax increase, but we all know that raising taxes can no longer be the first option, it has to be the last if an option at all. Okay. All right, Scott, do you have anything else?
Yeah, Council, I do have one more thing, and I apologize for not getting this on the agenda, and I apologize to the public for not getting this on the agenda earlier, but Rick and I went back and forth, and I think in the last 4 days there was 3 amendments to this. Not a new topic, though. We discussed it at the last meeting, which is when we move out of 2 Executive Drive, the court personnel is going to move to the police headquarters. And there is going to be a fit out for that. So they have the security that they need, they have the setup that they need. And I do have a proposal from Rick on all the work that Reagan Design Group would do, which is the plans and basically the construction management of the project. The good news is in the back and forth that we've had, we did reduce the number of Rick's proposal by $3,000.
Originally, it was, it would have been 8,000, so we came down 5 and went down another 3.
Right, so, and because what we did, we talked to Matt Cali, and they're going to be able to do the work rather than us go out and bid. So it's something that I'm going to ask council to pass a resolution authorizing Rick's to go forward with this, because we do need to move on it. I don't know if Patty and Tony can chime in on in terms of the protocol hearing, if this is something council wants to consider for tonight as an amendment to the agenda, or it's something that can wait. And Rick, you can speak to that if it could wait for the next meeting.
It's difficult to wait, only because if we're going to be moving in May, it's in order to try and get the court staff to be not in to drive by themselves, it would be helpful. That's what I can say.
Well, can I hear it
Yes.
first?
I'm sorry, yes, you may. Proposal is to design services for the court staff, which is the judge and the 2 ladies who work in the court office, and to create a vestibule in the area where there's currently storage that will have a bulletproof glass, an ATM, and other protection in the vestibule. So if a person comes in to pay their bill, they're in a secured area, and the staff is secure. They will have a connection into the police area for the purpose of using the bathroom, so we're not building new bathrooms. There will be the data systems and the electrical systems necessary for their copiers and other equipment. There'll be some small mechanical changes, changing some duct locations because of the walls that have to be put up. There'll be some additional electrical put in to serve them, and there'll be some light fixtures that'll get relocated. So it's not a huge task, but it should be done quickly.
Sorry, what's the total cost?
The cost of this proposal, our proposal, is $14,700. I think the construction would be $60,000 or less.
So, Rick, your path,
60 or less for the construction.
so Rick, your path was to get the go-ahead from us, then you would design the plans, then you would have to go to the building inspector, I assume, to get it approved, then after that. So you have a time frame to go for, right?
Yes, precisely.
Okay.
So you're looking for, this whole project will cost $74,000.
That would be my estimate of the total project. The first phase is the $14,700 for architectural services, and then once we meet with Matt Cali, and they will price it out. And my hope is that their number will come in substantially lower, because the number I gave you was based on prevailing wage.
I know he says time sensitive, but I would like to
Sure.
go work with the other council members, go through our options on this. I think, Stacy, Phil, Craig, feel free to jump in.
On something this expense, I would like to dot our i's, cross our t's before this move on. But by all means, it doesn't mean stop moving forward, I would say. Let's,
Well, what are our options? Let's
What do you
explore our
need
options
from us
first.
tonight?
Well, I mean,
They stay by themselves,
most
so
towns.
exactly, and we continue to pay rent there.
What's that?
They stay executive by themselves and we continue to pay rent there.
Why, but that's.
And that's not really.
That's not really.
Or we,
Okay, right,
or
so-
we fit out the new town hall, council chambers for court, since we're in
Well,
Cinemasons.
you're talking about two different things. That's, you're talking about court sessions. We're talking about the court administration, the actual offices, which there is no room in the new town hall. And if we're talking about court sessions, I did meet last week with, the administrator for the office of, was it the AOC, the
Right.
administrative office of the court. There are significant security measures that we would have to take to have court sessions in the new town hall, that would cost, a ridiculous amount of money, for a temporary fix.
Well, it's a good question.
And when we're in Cinnamons, and there's, you know, Judge Bookbinder's happy with us being in Cinnamons.
Yeah, no, I know. That's a good question that Stacy asked. What are our options? I mean, if we can't leave them by themselves where they are now,
Well,
Placing them with the police makes all the sense in the world.
Well, and quite frankly, facing with the police was what was decided by last council 2 years ago.
Also, where they're going, it's not like we're renting out additional, square footage. We already have it. Right now, it's the
Right.
records vault.
It's
So
the
that's gonna
records
be now
vault.
changed over and put into
Altering the
the
footprint
new hall.
of the existing,
The space is already rented as part of the
already
police.
rented.
I get that. I'm just trying to save the, the money that we're going to be putting out.
Well, if you'd like to build it,
What's that?
you can probably.
74 grand.
What exactly is the path that we would go through, Scott, to move forward on this? What would be the
Well,
recommended path?
We need Rick to move forward on his component, because we can't do the construction without signed engineered plans. We can't just go to Matt Cali. Matt Cali does regular office space, and, the issue always with the police and the court, it's not regular office space. There's, like I said, the security measures that need to be taken into account. So, I certainly understand council erring on the side of caution, because this is financial output, but I really don't see any other reasonable path that's gonna cost less and get the job done.
But what do we need to do, Scott?
You would need to pass a resolution authorizing the $14,700 to hire a rig and design group to begin the process, and then once you do that, Rick and his team will see the project through as quickly as possible.
We'll be able to incorporate that statement in a motion?
Let me ask you a quick question before we get that far, to ask a potentially dumb question. Is there space at Cinemenson for us to use? I mean, if we're using their court, do they have the offices, the ATM, the bulletproof window? I mean, can we?
They have the security measures, they do not have the room, because that was the first place I looked. And I did ask for it.
I think I know I've talked to Scott a lot about this, all the different areas we could go. So I actually even suggested moving into the library, the existing library. But that wasn't an option either because of all the,
That will be far more costly.
much more cost. Plus you're leaving, two court officials by themselves, which, is a safety issue. So having them in the police station, I think makes sense.
I think this is one of the things that was brought up in the GIF report that we've been talking about for a year, that we're going to go meet about, but this was one of the elements that was reported about the safety we were concerned with our employees. So I'd be very interested in making sure those employees were safe, who were important to us.
All right. Okay, so we need a motion to amend the agenda to
add resolution.
I have a title too.
add
Council.
resolution.
Number 94-2014.
What they said, so moved.
Can we read the title?
No, already, no.
the amended,
No, this is just going to be,
as stated.
for the 14-7 to start the engineering,
The architect.
the architect?
This is just a motion to add the resolution to the agenda.
Correct.
Right.
So,
This is not to pass it, this is just to get it
To
on
add
the
it to
agenda.
the.
Yeah, I just don't know what
consent
we're at, I just want Chris.
agenda.
The resolution.
Yes, it would be adding resolution number 94/2014, approving the fee proposal from Reagan Design Group in the amount of $14,400 in connection with the office fit-out needs of the municipal court office to be located at 1245 North Church Street.
I think it's 14-7, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're correct, 14-7.
So there's a motion on the table to amend the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Garwood?
Aye.
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes?
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mayor Fiacchio?
Yes.
So that was to amend the agenda, to add it to the consent agenda. So, motion passes.
And then, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have for the workshop this evening.
Okay, thank you. Moving into discussion items, we just did our amendment to amend the agenda, but are there any other
That's all I
discussion
have.
items, right?
No.
Okay. Move to reports from members of council. Start with Stacy.
Just wanted to congratulate the community house on a great event they had Saturday night. A lot of people from the town there, and they did a wonderful job, and just to help preserve a gem in our town. So congratulations to them. It was a great night.
Greg.
I was to the annual MIA function, annual meeting, and Mr. Armstead was given an award for all the years he served there, and Mr. Schill has now become president. Dave Schill has become president. And we had a wonderful, wonderful presentation on honeybees. You could not believe the amount of things that honeybees do for the community. Actually, I think other members of council were there.
Yeah, it was a good presentation.
And I also wanted to bring out, I just found out about this yesterday. There is a HR 1318 bill called the Bipartisan Youth Promise Act, which will reduce crime and save money by investing in a myriad of evidence-based youth and gang violence prevention and intervention practices such as mentoring and after-school programs which are proven to engage and divert at-risk youth more effectively and at a lower cost than incarceration. I just found out a little bit about this yesterday, but it sounds like the kind of thing that people would want to find out about and support, so I just bring that
Are
up.
there going to be grants associated with that, or any sort of?
It says a little bit about grants actually at the bottom, but I invite people to go find out about HR 13, Youth Promise Act. That's all I have.
Thank you. Phil.
Well, I was at the, we call it the bee thing in my household. My wife is going to have a beehive now anyhow, so we'll see. But it was fascinating. My daughter and my wife and I all attended that, and it was a great event. We had a planning board meeting on Thursday. 2 nice things came out of that. We adopted the bicycle safety and circulation plan as part of the master plan. So that's going to enable us to move forward with a lot of great positive things for bicycle safety in the township, bike paths and pedestrian walkways and whatnot. So that's great. And it looks like the Old Friendlies is going to have a client if that got approved. So
Nice.
yeah, so that project will be rolling shortly as well. So all good stuff. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Just reiterating what Deputy Mayor Jordan said about the wine tasting Saturday night. It was a great time. Great time was had by all, and it's just nice to be in that historic building and the history of it. So it was really a great job by the people who organized it, because it can't be easy getting that thing off the ground. And I've spent some time now following around our new trash men. I did identify myself, so I didn't think I was some sort of creep, but I support that they did their jobs. They put the trash in the truck and put the can back and moved on to the next house. So it seemed to be working well. And that's all I have. So let's move to scheduling items again. Any scheduling items for the agenda? Our upcoming meetings are right here in Morristown High School at the IT room. The next meeting is April 28th, 7:30 p.m. will be an official action meeting followed by, already up to May 12th, 2014, 7:30 official action meeting. I'm going to skip agenda updates, I've asked that 3 times already. I'm now going to ask for a motion to adopt a resolution approving the consent agenda.
So moved.
As amended, second.
As amended, second.
All in favor? Aye. Abstention or nays? None. We have no presentations and proclamations, which brings us to our resident request and presentation portion. If you have a request or a presentation, please come to the microphone, state your name, and then, yeah.
Hi, Jackie Grayer, 141 East Oak Avenue. I have a question about the paying taxes and the water bill online. I called, I read what's online, and then I called the tax collector, and I was a little confused because she told me that every quarter when you pay, let's stick with the property tax angle, when you pay your property taxes, you have to go back online and do something every quarter instead of a one-shot deal. You have to do it every time you pay your taxes. Is that correct? Because I pay lots of bills online. I pay lots of bills that come right out of my checking account. And that's only a one-time deal. I didn't mean online.
I got you.
So, but she said I had to go online each quarter to do
Manually
something.
pay as opposed to an automatic pay, is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah.
I don't think it's not automatic, but, Sean?
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, she said that's the way the vendor set it up, and so I don't see the point even, what's the advantage?
I guess to say it's time of writing a check or coming down there, but it's a good point. Is there a way to make it so that you can set up a recurring payment as opposed to having to log on manually every quarter?
Take it from your account? Yeah.
I guess, yeah, go automatically.
I don't think you can, because I think your numbers would change, and doesn't the,
I mean, I do 5 bills that way, and I did it, set them up once, and that's it.
It's a good point. It's something we can look into. It'd be a nice feature. And it'd probably help with collection, because people would, it's set up and they can.
To go to the trouble of doing it every quarter, it's just as easy to write a check and, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Jackie,
I'm one of the old fashioned.
if you wanna call in a couple of days, Tom and I will look into it and have it.
See if it's possible.
Okay, great, okay, thanks.
Anyone else?
Morning, Monday.
Sir.
Michael Babcock, 189 Highland Avenue. Actually, I got a couple of things, but I got one thing, speaking of water. Across from where my building is, over on Camden Avenue, for about 10 or 11 months. And every morning when I drive in, I take notice to like a lake in the parking lot of the shopping center across the street from me. It's been that way for about 10 or 11 months. They got a water main break in the parking lot. It's just been running out of the parking lot about 10 or 11 months. 2 months ago, I called someone from Public Works to actually pop a manhole cover next to my store. I mentioned to them, yeah, I'll go back and say something to somebody. No response. I spoke to Pete Clifford in zoning, wasn't sure who to contact about it. He said he'd get to the right person and ask about it, and it still hasn't been changed or fixed. Now, I know it's not metered because it's in the front of the parking lot, in front of the building. So it's been 11 months of just...
But it's actually in the parking lot?
It's in the parking lot in front of
Your hairdresser.
the hairdresser, and it's in front of Retro Fitness. I know the people who own the hairdresser, and I actually go over there and get my hair cut, and I kind of am astonished that they actually had, for a couple weeks, they had people valeting old ladies' cars and getting them up to the curb so they wouldn't slip and break their neck. But, I mean, people were made aware of it, and we're all paying for it.
Mr.
I
Babcock?
don't think we're all paying for it. It's private property.
If it's not metered and it's all coming out, we're paying for it.
But yeah, I'll look into it tomorrow, Mike. I'll reach out and let you know.
Mr. Babcock, I actually visited that hairdresser, and I seen the lake that you're talking about, and, there's 5 things it could be from, but, I think it should be looked into as well.
I think 6 or 8 years ago, there was a came out on a weekend. I believe it was a Sunday because I couldn't believe I seen guys out there on Sunday. They dug down and capped it and left the whole shopping center with nothing, because I believe the previous owners prior to the people that have it now, there's like a shut-off or something there that wasn't repaired correctly or was in disrepair,
Well,
and they refused it. Whoever owned it then didn't want to fix it right then. And I think the township said, well, now you gotta fix it because now your whole shopping center doesn't have wood. So I guess whatever they did to fix it still wasn't fixed.
right. Appreciate your
Thank you, Mr.
attention.
I got other questions, just talking about the budget, because I'm not familiar with it, and I just looked it over, the budget, and I have a question on, like, some line items, because some things jumped out at me. In the Human Resources Department, there's a line item that says Labor Relations Attorney, and budgeted for last year, the township had budgeted $20,000, and what was actually paid was $74,000. And in previous years, it was like 12,000, 7,000, 20,000. What is the labor relations attorney?
It's the township's labor attorney.
So it was for like the contracts or what?
Not so much the contracts from essentially when there is a problem, which I can't really get into.
So it'd be like if
personnel.
someone like working for the township
Right.
sued. Okay, I seen such a disparity. I thought it was
It's a call for doing business.
supposed to do better. Okay. And then the other thing, according to same with the budget, which kind of jumped out at me. I know we've talked in great length about sanitation, and I see the budget for sanitation, particularly in the salaries and wages, which only a quarter of this year is our guys doing it, and then after March 31st, Casworth took over. Why do we budget for overtime for 35,000, active duty 10? Some of the line items you would think would be reduced by 3/4. Why are we still budgeting for so much in those line items? Actually, 35,000 for overtime, what you budgeted last year.
Oh, you want to explain that? Sure.
The reason a lot of the overtimes were up was because of the snow removal. Again, all the workers do participate, correct. So that number's a good number. That was the number that up to date. Correct. There's 8 pays of the year are going to be charged to the sanitation for sanitations. The remainder go into the departments, out of the departments the men were reassigned to. But the 35,000 overtime was up in all the departments for all the snow. Okay. Thank you. And the only other thing, another thing that I didn't, a line item, as I said, this is the first time I've really ever gone through a budget, so I'm kind of learning.
Sure.
In road repair and maintenance, you know, the line item for traffic line painting. 2010, 2012 was budgeted, what was paid was like 20,000. Last year, nothing was paid out, but was budgeted for 30,000. This year's proposed budget is 60,000?
Yeah, I'll get an answer for you, Mike. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Petriello, 266 Union Street. I just wanted to say thank you. Earlier I had requested a copy of the pre-meeting packet that you all get. Not only was that made available to me, but it was also posted online for the benefit of everybody. And I think that's really a really good thing. So my question, can we expect that in the future?
I'll see why not. Who arranged it?
Patty and
Oh,
I. Yeah, we can do that. There are some times when there are changes, we try to keep last minute changes to a minimum, preferably not at all. But Patty and I discussed that today, and then we can put that on Monday morning, so everyone has a chance to see what's in the packet.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. Thanks.
Sure.
yeah.
Deanna Button, AKA Peach Button,
I don't know.
201 Foxwood Drive. You know that $60,000 that you're going to look at? Can we take 16 of that and put it toward Christmas, the rest of the Christmas lights? I know, this is ad nauseum. However, 3 years ago, the town council approved 2 phases to the town decorations on Main Street. The first year was half of it, and then the second year was going to be the second half, and that has never been done. And it's time. It's time to finish that project and get it done. And I'd just like to say something too. I think there's got to be some better planning. The first year the decorations went up, I know Gina Ziegel was out there directing everybody, and they went up at every other pole, and it was lovely. This year they were randomly put up. Half the lights weren't on. It took weeks and loads of complaints. I'm sure Scott was tired of hearing it. And let me tell you, everybody on the appearance committee was really tired of hearing it. And we can do better in Morristown. We really can. It was an embarrassment and a disappointment, I think, to all of us who have worked so hard on that. So I'm begging, once again, begging.
Would you like to volunteer to be the person who directs public?
I will. I will. No, you know what? I mean, how many of us have gone, or our husbands, have gone and put the lights on the
My husband
holiday
has no idea
tree?
where to put any of the lights. I do it all.
Yeah. Do you check them? Do you check them though before you put them? Because we've made that mistake. You know, kind of like what's that movie, Holiday, where and the lights go on.
Yeah.
But we've all done that. Decorate, plug them in. The middle string is out. You know, it's a simple thing. It's just a planning thing. Got to check them first. Make sure they're okay before you put them up. And I will go out. If somebody gives me a heads up, I'll go out on Main Street and we'll make sure they're done properly.
Make note of that, Mr.
Absolutely.
Make a note, make a note.
Thank you.
But I really hope that we can, you know, go back and finish the job.
Well, as Tom mentioned tonight, we did, the appearance committee asked at the last meeting, it was sort of a middle ground. So it was 6,000 instead of full 17, so it won't be every pole, but it'll be that much closer.
Some poles due to the location to the street and corners can't have anything on. So that was what was discussed at the prior meeting. And they went through and they pared it down to just the ones to
That
make it,
could
to make it look
have the
complete. Yes.
swags.
Yeah.
And the other
so-
concern was Linola. We need Canton Avenue, Linola, Canton Avenue area. And I think that needs to be addressed before we do the rest of it. So that's one of the things we need to look at.
Right, we're gonna-
Before you do the rest of Main Street?
Well, beyond the $6,000.
Okay.
What we're going to do is when Public Works has some downtime long before the holiday season, is take a look at the lights that were on Camden Avenue. We had a lot of problems last year with
I know.
lights being out, and there was
We had a lot of problems all over.
yeah, and there was
I mean, we
concern.
really need to do a better job. We're looking bad. Don't go to any other surrounding towns because we're gonna look. We can look better.
You should have
We
been
can
here
do
last
better.
time when we got complaints about what they looked like. So we kind of are in a no-win situation at half time. So
Yeah.
we had a lot of people who didn't like what they looked like and don't want them up there.
And Pete,
So-
But
we're aware that it's a no-win situation for a long time since the appearance committee was charged in 2002, actually,
it's gone on for
with
years.
making these decorations go on. And we thank you for hanging in there and trying to make this
And for
work.
volunteering.
Listen, I am the least experienced on that whole committee. We have a really experienced committee that people need to know about, from architects to designers and landscapers and business people. They are very experienced. Notice they're not here. They send the realtor.
Thank you, Keith. It was great seeing you.
Thank you, Pete.
Sir?
Women, 123 Augusta Drive. Last month's meeting, I had numerous headlines beforehand saying that we're going to talk about a smoking ordinance in public fields. It was pulled from the agenda without any explanation. Is there any reason it's not being talked about here tonight?
No, no real reason, I don't think.
It was not on the agenda that we got, I know that.
I don't know if it's gonna make it back, to be honest with you.
Is there a reason? I mean, there was a headline in the newspapers telling us that it was going to be talked about. I'd just be interested in hearing.
I didn't support it. I wasn't, if it comes back, I'm gonna vote no. But, so if we don't have any, we have much bigger priorities, Mr. Gorman, than somebody smoking in Strawbridge Lake, to be honest with you.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, but yet, did we spend any money to draft the ordinance?
No, it was provided by the county.
And who decided to put it on the agenda?
I did.
Without consulting council?
I don't consult counsel when I put the agenda together.
In reference to the legal bills that I mentioned at the last meeting, I was promised I was going to get them. I've sent numerous inquiries, and now I'm being told that as a resident, I'm not able to see the bills that the city solicitor, township solicitor submitted to the township until he reviews them for further charge. Does council feel as though we should be complying with the Open Public Records Act? And can you tell me when can I expect the legal bills for review?
No, I think you should get copies of whatever you ask for, provided it's it's within the purview of the Open Public Record Act. I wasn't aware that you were told that the bills had to be re-reviewed. If that's the case, it doesn't seem out of the ordinary. I mean, I don't know what particularly the delay or what the time frame will be, but I'm sure you're a patient guy. I'm sure you'll wait for it when you get it. It'll be the information you ask for.
I asked for the bills over a month ago, and the law is quite clear that we're supposed to provide them within 10 days. And with all the conflicts going on that we keep hearing about with Morristown Mall being represented by Mr. Drawes, he also represents, or his firm represents Burlington County.
Enough with the garbage, Bob.
Mr.
The bills,
Mr.
we're
Drawes,
finished
I'm
redacting them.
Excuse
The
me,
bills
Mr.
are
Drawes.
subject
Mr. Drawes,
to
can I
production.
ask my question?
No, you may not, because you're not asking
Are
a
you
question.
running the meeting again?
You're back.
Are we paying money for this for you to
want
run the
me
meeting?
You want me to run the meeting? 'Cause
No,
you
I want the
don't.
mayor to. That's what the people, council appointed him to be it.
I'm not taking your garbage, Bob. You'll get the bills
Mr. Drawes.
when they're redacted, and they'll be redacted consistent with the attorney-client privilege, which is protected under the Oprah statute, and that's just the way it is, Bob. You're gonna have to wait a little bit. That's all.
The
That's
law
all
says
that's
10
going on.
days.
The law does not say 10 days.
You already submitted the bill to the township.
Done.
It's unfortunate that you treat the residents like that.
It's unfortunate that you don't give up, Bob. You keep doing this, you bombard Patty with Oprah requests, you waste everybody's time to push your agenda. You understand?
When you
That's
say
what's
my
going on.
agenda, if you're calling it an agenda to find out what the township is paying for solicitor bills, even, not only,
The bills go out
Excuse
pursuant
me,
to
ma'am.
Oprah requests all the time,
Ma'am.
Bob. So give it a rest.
as we said before, the previous attorney made $100 an hour. You submit, they bid the job,
Here you
you
go.
bid $150.
You know what our
I
rates
think
are.
the
We've been
residents
here a year and a
are
half.
entitled to know what we're paying for.
Sure. There's no dispute on that.
It's unfortunate that you continue to
It's
override the
unfortunate,
mayor.
it's unfortunate that under the guise of protecting the public, you come up and keep pushing your same rotten agenda that you always have, which is to attack me. And that's enough.
Let's
It's not to attack you, Mr. Drawes.
Mr.
My
Drawes,
goal-
Mr. Drawes.
My goal
Since
is to
before
find
you
out what
appointed,
the taxpayers
you've
are paying
attacked
for.
us. That's
My
enough.
goal, does any member of council believe that we should know what the lawyer's charging us
That's
for?
not your
Well,
question.
let's keep
It is my question. That's, Mr. Drawes, you don't decide what I ask. I
Okay,
get to
okay.
ask.
Bob,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I appreciate, we'll provide you the records. Please, let's keep the meeting moving, and let's not digress into this. Let's just keep the meeting moving. What's your next point, Bob?
At the last meeting, I also raised the point about acting directors. And I was wondering if,
I
any
do have an
update?
answer for you, Bob. If I remember correctly, and I did check my notes today, you made a statement that we have two acting directors, and then a follow-up question is to if there is a time limit as to how long someone can serve as an acting director. Is that accurate?
Correct.
The answer to that is, and when you ask about the time limit, I'm assuming you mean like in terms of civil service, not an internal township policy.
Correct.
Okay. Under civil service, they do not recognize any acting director positions. So under civil service, we have no acting director positions. So since they don't recognize it, the question about how long they can serve is almost a moot question because there is no such thing as an acting director under civil service. And we do not have any employees that have a civil service designation as an acting director.
Well, it's not moved from the standpoint of, while the acting director may not fall under civil service, their full-time permanent position does fall under civil service. And the question I asked was, are they still on leave of absence from that position?
That's not what you asked. You asked, how long can someone serve as an acting director? And the answer is, they can't, because there is no civil service designation as an acting director. We have no one that has a civil service designation as an acting director.
Is there anybody, so the question I'd ask then is, how long are they allowed to be on leave of absence from the full-time position?
I don't believe we have anybody on leave of absence for a full-time position.
Is the Public Works Director an acting director, or is he full-time? Is he, not full-time, that's not the appropriate word. Is he certified in that position?
He is.
Is he considered on leave of absence? I'm interested. Is he considered on leave of absence from whatever his title was?
No, he was appointed, and he's been serving in that
So
position ever since.
he's not considered on leave of absence?
But before we continue, and Tony, stop, because we're going to talk about a specific person and their job.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I just would like to clarify something. The Public Works Director is now identified as an acting director, is that correct?
No, not.
Well, I
not
mean, in the literature we've seen and everything else, he's,
In terms of his civil service designation, that's not what his job title is.
okay, so then his job title is really as a director.
What is the reason?
Well, I just want to understand myself,
What's
because
the
I've seen
reason for
it,
the question?
the Public Works is identified as an acting director.
Yeah, I really, we have not raised notice, Mr. Ewers, I do not feel comfortable talking about his job position.
Well, maybe Mr. Gorman can tell us what your concern would be, if just what your concern is in general with the one position we were just discussing.
Well, there's two positions. My concern is in reference to the budget. Last year, you obviously had a lot of positions that you budgeted that were not, in fact, filled. And including that, you had the acting director, his position that he has the right, if he's fired, he would have the right to go back to that position if he was on a leave of absence. So that's why, in reference to the budget, are we budgeting these positions that they would have the right to go back to if they were fired?
Okay, so that's a fair question.
It is, and it is incorrect to say that we budgeted positions that were not filled last year. We budgeted positions that were filled, that opened up during the course of the year. So what you said was inaccurate.
I don't believe that to be true, but we can check that further. You tell me all those positions in the Public Works Department were filled at one time this year?
There were 2 that opened in late 2012. There were 4 that were opened in 2013. There were 6 open positions at the end of 2000.
Mr. Cronin, to just using the words you just got done telling me, every position was filled in 2013 that was in the budget. You then go on to say some of them became vacant in 2012. You can't have it both ways.
Well, we understand what you said. Mr. Gorman, what, do you have anything else for us, sir?
No, I'll come up for the other resolution later. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Sure.
Good evening, Council. Jack Lance, 302 East Main Street, here in Morristown. I'm glad you brought up the Jeff Young Park. I happened to be there. It was opening day for softball over the weekend. And while I was down there, the park, I didn't realize how bad that park was. There was actually 2x8s, 12 foot long with nails. It just very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
And me and another resident, we picked up all the loose stuff, laying debris that somebody could just literally step on. We removed, and it's literally in the back of my truck right now. We picked it up just to remove that, and that was one of my questions was, what can we do to help that park? I mean, it's shabby.
Well, okay.
And,
Well, no, and Jack, that is one of the capital projects council's hopefully we're going to fund.
Okay.
And sounds like tonight from the feedback that I got that it will be. And the Parks and Rec director as well as our park planner have a plan in terms of what needs to be done. And as soon as the money's in place, we can begin that work.
And if you'd like to volunteer, because we are looking for volunteers, there's a, I've got an email with my, here it is, ideasforlanola@gmail.com.
Okay.
Go on there, sign up, tell them you'd like to help out, and they will get in contact with you, because we're going to be getting a group of people together to work on that and make that a reality.
Wonderful. All right, that's great. And I guess it feeds back into Fullerton Park or Zelli Park with the basketball courts.
Right.
I did attend that recent committee meeting, although nothing was really addressed at that time, so I guess we'll just go back to the,
Yeah, well, actually, after a couple weeks ago, when you came to the council meeting, I did reach out to Chairman Omler, who's the chairman of the BRAC, and said, you know, maybe we should consider talking about it. You know, the first step would be deciding, you know, if there's enough of a public, you know, enough public support behind the idea of putting a basketball court there. Certainly on its face, it seems to me if there was a basketball court there once and we tore it down, we should consider putting it back. It seems kind of, you know, common sense. But that said, there's a number of engineering challenges with that spot. So what it would come down to is having the engineer go out, coming up with a cost plan and seeing if the cost is something that we can pull off or if we would need maybe some private donors to come in and help with putting the basketball court back. But I'm absolutely fine with moving it forward, and I appreciate you coming and putting it on the radar screen. I'm fine with taking it to the point where we find out what it will cost to build a court there correctly, if we can do it.
absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
I agree with it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Again, that's ideasforlanola@gmail.com. Please sign up.
Peach button again. I just wanted to say, we rode by the fields in Lanola Brink, and if just get somebody to take that wooden stuff down and take the danger away.
I agree.
And as you start to redo that project, because that really needs to be done. I think it'd be really neat.
Yeah.
But I also want to tell you that we were at several fields on Saturday, and we know which one is the windiest field. But the fields look great. We went to soccer, we went to lacrosse, the baseball out at behind the UES. I forget the name. Prior Park.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Looks really great, and millions of kids. Wonderful. It was
Having
great.
fun. The kids like it.
And kids are loving it.
Okay. So take your time, we're not going anywhere. So take your time, we're not going anywhere, we seem to be rushing.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was,
No.
I was just out of
No,
carry
no,
here.
he's joking, he thought you were rushing.
Yeah, I thought you were rushing to the microphone, so I just telling you to take your time, that's all.
My name is Robert Zenik. I live at 626 East Main Street. And it's very difficult for me to speak here. I don't know if it is for anyone else, but it takes a lot of courage, I think, that the average person such as me doesn't have. But a couple meetings ago, a gentleman, and I think it was that gentleman down there, all the way down to the left of the camera, he brought up about the Verizon deal, that saying about how it's merging.
Yes, it was me.
You know, it seems so inconsequential, perhaps, to us. But most of us, if we stand up here and say something, it's because something really concerns us. And we come to the council for you to be our champions. And if it doesn't cost anything, to send that letter to Verizon saying that we object to their high costs and everything, the joke shouldn't be for him to sign up for satellite TV. We should try to do it, because that's what we're here for, to serve. And I really like the idea about Christmas lights, because I think that not enough of attention is being paid to the commercial district in Moorestown. That there's viable commercial districts in Collingswood, there's some in Haddonfield, but Moorestown is pretty undeveloped, to say the least. We have hair salons and banks, and there's nothing wrong with hair salons and banks, but it would be nice to generate some foot traffic in the town. And I think that if the commercial district, which could be made into a sustainable additional tax resource for the town, is made more viable, it affects all our taxes throughout the town. A lot of people figure that since they live out in the outskirts of the town, that what goes on in the center of town doesn't affect them. But it does. It affects each and every one of us. That gentleman there, I don't see what it would cost us if we made a motion and sent something in objecting to the merger of it. It takes me a while to think about it, but it doesn't cost us a thing, and it doesn't jeopardize us at all.
You said Verizon, you talking about the Comcast?
The Comcast Verizon, isn't that what it was, the merger?
Comcast and Time Warner.
And Time Warner, pardon me, and Time Warner. It doesn't cost us a thing, and we can voice our objection to the high rates. And